All right, awesome. We're live on YouTube. Welcome to the group conversation where we're going to talk about what we've been doing with product marketing. I'm John Jeremiah. I'm part of the GitLab product marketing team. I'm super happy to be with you all and to help facilitate the conversation. This is interactive. We posted the slides summarizing the last, I think, 8 weeks of activity and things we've been working on in product marketing, which has been quite a bit of different fun and exciting things. I'll highlight a couple of things that I want to call out. One of the things that I think was most exciting, we summarized on slide 4, which was the results for Enterprise Agile Planning Magic Quadrant, where we were evaluated as a visionary, which is awesome. It reflects a lot about what's been happening in the product with this as we MVC and introduce new capabilities. It's what customers have told and shared with the analysts as well. And you can even see that we have a 4.6 rating in the peer review system. And if you're interested, we could use more peer reviews. So I included a little boilerplate there that if you were to share that in social media, we would love to have more people offer their insight in the Gartner peer review process. So that's a link and a quick way to do that. But please feel free to do that. I shared it on LinkedIn yesterday, and I've already encouraged some people to offer some insight. A couple other highlights that if I were to quickly summarize things that I think are interesting, we continue to work on driving things forward and doing research. And if I jump to slide 12, this is a bit of a tease. Because we don't have the final results yet, but Colin and I and Ashish, we've been working on a little bit of customer segmentation. I've been looking at 18 months worth of data, and these scatter plots reflect where we've been winning and losing and what those trends have been, and we're starting to see some patterns that are emerging. And so we're continuing to do this, digging into this, and we're at a preliminary stage of the research, and we have a partner who's helping us with it. And Sid has a question. Cool. Now we can go to questions. Sid, how can people find the Google presentations, for example?
Yeah, I'm still writing it, but there's a cross pipeline triggering and visualization, and I cannot find that in the docs, on the resources page, or on our blog post about the subject. So how are these presentations serviced to the company and the wider community?
Yeah, that's a good question, Sid. And I'll be honest on this one here.
I can answer.
Oh,
I can share some on that. Hey, this is Dan. We list the click-through demos, the presentations, off of the demos site, and we link them also off of the sales resources. Although the 2 new ones we haven't quite yet gotten onto the sales resources page, but they are off the demo site. And then we also do sales enablement on when we have a new demo available.
Cool. How is there some thinking about, like, if you make something, how much time do you spend distributing it? How do we think about that?
Well, as a rule, what we should be doing and what we need to be doing is, one, updating it on the sales resource page, especially if we think it's a sales resource that the team needs to reuse and reuse. We often will do enablement around the topics as well. We probably need to think more about how do we distribute and how do we publish things and how do we get content into the hands of the people who need them. And actually, that's a nice segue, Sid, into a discussion that we've been having. William and I started having it earlier on. It's actually summarized in our slide 7 about an enablement platform to make it easier for people to find resources as they get created. This is something that we're wrestling with, because as we produce more content, it becomes incredibly hard it becomes harder and harder to find it. And the sales resource page is a band-aid, I think, at this point of links to where things are that we're curating, that we think are the right things to point people to. But this is going to become more challenging as we go forward, and we're going to have to put time into solving it.
Yeah, and I look forward to our solutions, and I think it's really hard to keep things update it when they're in, for example, if we use an external tool, how do we embed the presentation in a blog post? How do we link it from the handbook? I look forward to how that works. But I think in general, we have a lot of great content, and maybe we should have a suggestion that you spend 10% of the time you work on something to just make sure it's added at every appropriate place you can think of. Because it's just, you just Google for GitLab cross-project pipelines, and these are the first 4 links. And they should just embed that content, in my opinion.
You're right. And I don't think that's a bad idea. 10%, 15%. We need to carve out time to do it. Thank you. Amanda, I'll verbalize for you. How does the partnership with Salesforce DX expand our offering? Can someone help me on our partnership with Salesforce DX? Anyone on the call can help me on that? Amanda, I'm gonna have to go offline with you and try to help answer that.
I can give a little bit on that.
Okay.
If Tina's on the call or gets on the call, she could add more. So they just had their big Trailhead DX conference, and Mayank and Francis and some folks worked with some folks at Salesforce to create this great workshop that lists out how do you use GitLab as its CI and its CD capabilities to actually deliver the changes to the new Salesforce web-based editing or coding platform. And they got a lot of good traction at the show. A lot of people interested in GitLab and aware of GitLab because of it. There's more to do here. I think there's a trial program or a special program that's been worked out with them. I think it's like 3 months of GitLab access if you do it with the partnership through Salesforce. And we're looking we're watching to see how much traction there is there before we take the next step. But it looks like there's good traction so far.
Thank you, Dan. Tina, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks, Chris. He put in the, this is the blog that Salesforce did for us, as well as I've keyed in the blog that we did on it. But net, there's 3 main things that we did. We created, in conjunction with Salesforce DX, we created a trailhead, which is a walkthrough for the developers to see how this all works together. And this all works together really is we created a Salesforce template in our issues that basically follows their format of how they do things. So that's really cool. And anybody can go into the trailhead and take that module, if you will. You earn points and such. And that's sort of what that developer community likes to do. We also have that 3-month, like Dan said, we have a 3-month essentially GitLab Gold, GitLab.com Gold trial that they will be able to have for 90 days. Which is an extension of our normal 30 days. So that is a kind of a promo that we're running in conjunction with Salesforce. We also included a single sign-on for all Salesforce users as well. You guys will see if you guys log out of your GitLab.com, you'll see that there is a new single sign-on, which the development team was able to get done last week. And that's how we're kind of cross-promoting and allowing the Salesforce users to come into the system to activate their trials. And then what else was there? We have the promo, we have the trailhead, and then we obviously have the template integration at this point. And that's kind of what we've done. So hopefully that answers all the questions.
Thank you very much. And Sid, we have you again with about a distribution resource. We talked about that. And Jason, do you want to verbalize your question?
Sure. I was wondering how people are responding to the Just Commit campaign, how that's working.
So the Just Commit campaign was our first integrated campaign where we partnered with across the board with digital, with content, and building out a whole series of threads and themes. 3 themes really focused on. One was on, we were trying to talk to and target the VP of apps and application development leader around how can they deliver faster, How can they deliver with more security and app security? And then lastly was around, how do they incorporate containers and Kubernetes into what they're doing? And my experience with it, and JJ or LJ can chime in with what we've seen from a actual metrics perspective. I don't have the metrics in front of me, but my experience from when we've engaged and we've done webinars and we've connected with people is that we've been getting pretty good traction as far as engagement with people around the content, and that I think the campaign has been generally a success as far as getting people into the funnel and into the process. As we go forward, as I look beyond Just Commit, I think what's important to see is that over the summer, and actually next month, we start the next step in our process of looking at our messaging and focusing on value drivers. And the value drivers are going to be really how we build out messaging going forward, both around campaigns and about how we engage and how we talk to prospects, frankly. And we start to talk, the value driver focus will be around what are the problems and pain points that a buyer or a person in an organization has that we're going to help solve. Interestingly, there's going to be some overlap. There's quite a bit of overlap to what we did with Just Commit. One of the value drivers that we'll be focusing on will be about speed and velocity and helping people to go faster. That's a challenge that IT leaders and development leaders are facing. Second will be around efficiency. How do they more efficiently and effectively build and organize their teams? And then the third one will be around risk and how do they manage and mitigate risk and compliance as they go faster. Those will be the three themes that we'll focus on for value drivers and we'll be building out as we go forward. So my perspective and my experience has been Just Commit has been a success for our first integrated campaign with white papers, with webinars, with Forrester contributing to it. We had a whole host of different assets feeding into it. I don't have the summary of the data, but we can pull it together. I know we have it, I just don't have it in front of me. Thanks, Jason. Other questions?
If nobody has any other ones, I'll ask another one. Have you seen any interesting threads or trends in marketing messages out in the industry for our DevOps space that are gaining traction or anything like that?
Well, one of the threads that I think is interesting that I've been pinged on a couple of times has been around the how people are focusing on value stream. Forrester has been driving this idea of value stream management. TaskTop is driving around value stream. So is Plutor and a couple others of helping enterprises go faster. I think that's an interesting angle that they're starting to see that. And when I talk to other analysts as well, it seems that that's getting traction as a thread that we'll see more of it in the future. Arguably, Forrester and Chris Kondo's research started the ball rolling, but I think their peers and the other analyst firms as well are going to be starting to cover that as well. And so that's a combination of both what the analysts are doing and what's happening in the market.
Hey guys, this is Colin. I just had, hey Jason, something that also kind of popped up recently that it's going to be interesting to see, how much kind of gas gets behind it. But, we're starting to see Gartner, starting to actually publish around AI augmented development. I think that's something that, for Gartner to start to talk about it, publish it. They had their first innovation insight, just from kind of past experience, things like that. That's an indicator that there is some demand, not just from the vendor community necessarily, but from the larger enterprise and user community. So I just think it's something interesting. We may need to, certainly within our group, we're keeping an eye on.
Thank you very much, Colin. So Chris, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, so my understanding is OpenShift is coming out 4.0, which is based on Kubernetes, and then I'm seeing a lot of traction in federal with Pivotal, and no one in the federal market is really standardized on one or the other. So I think those are the two main contenders. And so there's a lot of partners that are building a business practice where it's like the road to the cloud, us on the bottom, platform as a service, and then to the cloud provider, whoever that is. Do we have a PowerPoint or anything in particular that is being generated based on the latest releases and how we work together?
I'm not that I'm aware of, and I don't know, Tina, if you have anything on Pivotal or OpenShift from a partnership perspective. It's something I think we should take offline and open an issue and address as far as how we drive that.
I don't have anything to date that I know of, but if there's a need out there from a partnership standpoint, let's get it documented in an issue and get the work rolling.
There's one effort afoot, and if I can track on the issue, I'll post it in the agenda. We have a current open project with Brandon to do like a blog post on using Red Hat and GitLab together. There are some ideas out there. I mean, this could be as simple as I'm deploying GitLab on my Red Hat Enterprise Linux VM, which would be a very simple blog post to get out, but one that would be a bit more compelling and that we've been discussing in the comments, and Chris and others, we'd love, like I said, I'll track down the issue, I'll put it in there. We would love more input and feedback. But this is specifically around OpenShift. Of course, that's a bit more challenging. Our stock position is that we support vanilla upstream Kubernetes, of which OpenShift is not. But we are still working together with Red Hat even on some of that content, and there is some dialogue there. So if I'll track down that issue, I'll post it in there. And this is kind of a perennial conversation that we have in regards to kind of non-standard Kubernetes distributions.
And,
thank you, William.
Thank you.
There's also a conversation with VMware about Enterprise Pivotal, kind of via Brandon. So that's coming down the pike as well.
Yeah, Cullen, that's a really good point. The VMware contract was recently signed, and one of the things that I'm working with on Brandon is how we are going to, get some of this go-to-market stuff together, especially with VMworld happening at the end of August. So I think over the summer, over the next, 30, 60, 90 days, you're going to see a lot more content coming out from that perspective.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Thank you, Tina. And continuing, John.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask a question around like the dev or operator personas and whether we have demos or other materials that are targeting those folks. The thought being that, like as our kind of community grows and we're doing more and more meetups, it would be great to empower organizers or community members to pick up those materials and kind of share them with their audiences. It seems to be like a common blocker for getting these events together, is people don't always know what to speak about. And so if we could provide those materials to them, that could help us continue to grow the activity.
That's a great question. And so Cindy posted kind of a link to overall some of the links about personas. We have personas in the handbook. We also have a page in the handbook, and I'll post it in here as soon as I get done talking if someone doesn't get to it before me, which is a page where we list all of the different demos, click-through demos and other demos that Dan and team are building and maintaining, which is a resource that's available for you and for everyone to use as a way to illustrate where we're at. So I'll add that as well.
Hey, John, this is Ashish.
Hi,
I can
Ashish.
ask John some clarity. John, are you talking about not just the demos, but also if we can help create presentations that the community members can go and present out there, or is it just demos? I heard that you would love for some presentations that they can present on behalf of GitLab, correct?
I think both options would be great.
Okay, so I think we have some demos that can be used already, like John talked about, but we're happy to actually also prepare some content with speaker notes and a video recorded. Let's start with a couple of them, as MVCs, to see how they what traction they gain, and happy to kind of build on that content as well. We've been focused more on the enterprise kind of buyers and those kind of personas. We're happy to build a couple. We've been talking about it, how we do engineering, etc. And we can tailor them and see how that tracks.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Ashish. Are there other questions that we can help with? This has been fantastic. Not hearing any, not seeing any. I'll give it a quick countdown and then we'll wrap. 3.
So
Okay, well,
it says in the handbook, in the history of the company, no one's ever asked a question during the countdown. So no need to do a countdown.
Thank you, Sid. Well, thank you all. Thank you for the fantastic conversation discussion. Have a great rest of the day. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.